Good morning. Welcome to the morning market briefing. Today is Monday, April 27th, 2026. What's up, TK?
Not much. Got Tom and Tom in the studio today.
It's a Tomcats only podcast. If you're not a Tomcat, go ahead and shut down, unsubscribe, and come back tomorrow, I suppose. Andrew's out this morning. Ben is on his way to Europe, is my understanding. I totally forgot that trip was coming up. So about 5 minutes ago, TK and I looked at each other and realized that there was no one here to set the agenda for today's call. So we're just going to be playing smooth jazz. We're going off the top of our heads. We put a couple notes together about 15 seconds ago, and we're off to the races. I think the big news over the weekend was the gunman at the Washington Correspondents' Dinner. Obviously, could have been an interesting day today if anything crazy had happened, but once again, we've got nutballs unsuccessfully attacking members of the Trump administration. The one that I always go back to that I forget, and it was such a strange one, was that there was a guy who showed up to Scott Bessent's confirmation hearings with a backpack full of Molotov cocktails, walked in, got scared, and instead of just turning around and going home, he walked up to a police officer and was like, "Hey, I'm actually here with a backpack full of Molotov cocktails to kill Scott Bessent." And I'm pretty sure that guy's probably behind bars now, if I had to guess. Though he technically didn't do anything, but what he should have done was one thing less, which was just walk out, just turn around.
The guilt was eating him up.
Yeah, that's a bad move. Like, if you're going to commit a crime and then you don't commit the crime, don't go up to the cop and tell him you were about to.
That's how good of a guy Scott Bessent is you have to confess to.
Yeah.
Molotovs.
He knew that if Scott had found out about that, he'd be safer behind bars. So I think that's maybe it was the good move. But obviously that story is still developing. Crazy weekend. I stayed up late to watch Trump talk about it.
Yeah, what was he talking about? I didn't actually watch it. I was watching basketball, and about every 20 seconds, they're like, "Okay, we might stop the program for an emergency special news report." And I'm like, what is possibly going on right now?
Yeah, so he basically was just like, I didn't want to leave. I was interested because how Trump is notoriously prickly with the press. He was just congratulating everybody. He was saying, what a wonderful evening they were going to have. The head of the White House Correspondents' Dinner lady, I'm not sure what her exact title is. He was very complimentary of her, very complimentary of law enforcement. The video of that dude, it's an interesting tactic. I've not seen this one before, which is just to sprint through a security checkpoint. Have you seen the video yet of this guy?
I haven't seen the video, but I heard he kind of just, no one was going to grab him. He kind of just bursted through.
TK, I don't want to blow you up, but known anime enthusiast, he just ran through like a guy out of one of those animes, just like zipping, open fire with his shotgun, hit a cop, cop's okay, Secret Service person's okay, and then the wild move to me is if you're going in and you're intending to create a mass casualty event, how do you end up getting tackled? You have a firearm. I'm assuming maybe it was just a double-barrel shotgun. He only had 2 shots, which is a dumb move. I guess we haven't really found out about the weapon yet, but
he had like knives or something too.
Yeah,
didn't he?
so again, and then you just end up naked on the floor with embarrassing pictures of you, a lot of memes. So not real well thought out, I think, on either side, both from the security checkpoint standpoint or the assassin. But I would say that's probably the big news over the weekend. Got a couple things coming up. I think really the plan for today's call is do a little bit of a preview. We've got a lot going on this week. We have all the heavy hitters reporting earnings this week. We also have the Fed meeting this week, which if you look at the expectations for a cut or a hike, we're sitting at exactly 0.00% chance of any change in interest rates. So I wouldn't say there's a ton to glean from that other than nothing's going to happen this week from the Fed. But obviously we're seeing potential for the Department of Justice investigation on the cost overruns to be dropped. Department of Justice indicated they were going to drop it. Then Trump said they weren't. So we'll see what that happens. But hopefully that should clear the way for Kevin Warsh to get in a reasonable pace and get everything cleared up. But TK, first of all, let's go through Qualcomm this morning. We got some earnings, and then we'll jump into some of the big dogs, big news this week.
Yeah, at least this morning, Qualcomm up like 13% pre-market today. There's rumors going around that they are going to collab with OpenAI to develop some smartphone processors. So that'll be a little interesting. See if it's a little weird. OpenAI kind of had the mindset, I feel like, the last month or so to kind of be divesting from some of their other stuff. They divested from Sora and some of their other lines. So it looks like they might be hopping into the phone space.
Do we feel like OpenAI is maybe they were the first mover, like the first real AI company, but I feel like their momentum is really coming to a halt. I feel like you're starting to see the Anthropics of the world, the XAIs of the world catch up and become maybe more effective or more useful AI companies. Do you think that they're losing steam, or is that just my perception because I don't like Sam Altman?
Well, I don't like Sam Altman either, but I mean, they definitely have been losing steam. Their valuation's still extremely. I mean, I was talking to Petty, and he said a lot of it's because they're integrated already with a lot of companies. But I don't know. I think that a lot of their product isn't the best. Their new Codex is really good, but I think that Anthropic still has the cream of the crop product there. And I don't know. I think that Sam Altman's kind of a snake oil salesman, and he's doing a lot to benefit himself.
Potentially evil guy.
Maybe.
He gives me the creeps. In other market news, before we get at earnings, speaking of AI startups, China is putting the kibosh on Meta buying Manus, which is something we talked about, I want to say a few weeks ago on this call. It was a $2 billion acquisition of the Singapore-based AI startup. But I guess the guys originally started it in China. They moved to Singapore, which they now call Singapore washing. And China is reaching outside of its natural borders and basically saying, no thanks. That would be a violation of our policies. And that's all they basically said, but they're saying Meta can't have this company, Manus.
This is our company. You can't have it.
Yeah, which is interesting because, I mean, if you go back to all the different reasons why you shouldn't invest in China, I mean, there's a zillion of them. But one is, I mean, people forget Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, just disappeared for a couple months and had to be re-educated. This is probably 2019. Hicks, you remember when that was? But he just disappeared. He said some things that were maybe not even, I wouldn't even say they're negative about the Chinese Communist Party, but he just disappeared for a while. And then occasionally China will just be like, hey, we need to cash up a little bit. We're just going to take $5-6 billion in stock from you guys, and we're going to take that, and that's ours. And notoriously, a lot of these companies are able to just completely falsify any and all financial documents. If you want to find a really interesting one, we've talked about it on the call before, but Luckin Coffee.
I was going to say that when I was looking at Starbucks, Luckin, they totally faked their all their financials.
Ben and I want to say Andrew was that one too. We went to a presentation by Luckin Coffee in Orlando like 8-9 years ago. And it sounded like the most interesting company in the world, where they were just going to use basically big data and making it so you could only buy the coffee through their app, and therefore the pricing would be dynamic. So if you hadn't been in a while, you could pay something more or less than the person next to you based on the frequency at which you went to Luckin Coffee, and that they were going to take the footprint of the stores down to like the size of this room and just be like, there's not going to be a place to sit. There's not going to be a place to hang out. The idea was like, we're going to force as much coffee out of a small footprint as possible. We're going to use AI to drive how much milk, coffee, sugar we have in each location, what the staffing hours are. That like the hours would also be dynamic. They were just like, everything is going to be data driven, including the pricing. And not only that, but like you could be walking by one and it would like push out a coupon to you. So the idea would like draw you in. And I thought, man, that's a really interesting way to run a coffee company. And they were like, we've opened 1,500 stores in China. We're the fastest growing coffee company on the planet. And then it turned out that none of that was true. They had like basically falsified all of their financials. All of the stores they had opened were not real. And the stock fell like 95% in a day. And I had bought just a couple shares of it just because I wanted to watch it, because I thought it was interesting. And I thought, if they really blew up and had 15,000 stores and took over China, which has never done well in the coffee space, then that would eventually be worth something, and I could just kind of track it. So that wasn't it wasn't awesome, but it wasn't like I didn't put a couple $100 in. I think I put like $150 in, and it just basically went to zero. So lesson learned. So don't ever invest in China. There's another time this is way back in the day. It's probably like 2011. I was just doing a search on incredibly cheap companies, trying to find like what companies were making a ton of money and were trading at low PEs, and I just wanted to get dividends and cheap stocks. And I bought this company, Namtai Electronics. The ticker was NTE. And basically they were a secondary manufacturer of like Motorola phone parts. And you needed to repair phones. They made the repair pieces, and it was chugging along okay. And then they basically came out at an earnings one day and they're like, you know what? This is a dead industry. Nobody's buying Motorola phones anymore. We are completely changing the company. We've, in the last couple of days, sold all of our factories, and we bought a big plot of land, and we're going to be Namtai Properties. And they became a real estate company, and the stock fell, a ton. And I don't know if it ever recovered. I sold out of it. I was like, I don't want any part of this. But that's what happens when you invest in China is you think you have one thing, and you actually have another. And now this is interesting, which is you think you're going to buy a Singapore-based AI company. It turns out it's a Chinese company that the Chinese government can basically say, no thanks, you can't have it because we want it. And that's story time for investing in China. TK, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it kind of just goes to show their footprint is pretty widespread. So when we do stuff like export restrictions on like GPUs and stuff, I mean, you have to wonder. I mean, if we're exporting GPUs and stuff to Singapore, I mean,
you might as well be.
You might as well be going to China because it's going to China.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're able to have so much influence over countries that operate so differently from them from an economic standpoint. I mean, you think of Taiwan, you think of Singapore. These are some of the freest countries from an economic standpoint. They're almost like super capitalism on the economic side, and then a little scary on the other side of the coin, which we talked about. You can't spit your gum out in Singapore, or you face corporal punishment. But I mean, if you look at the economic freedom index, I mean, these companies are way higher, or these countries are way higher on the stack than we are, despite the fact that we always toot our horn as being the most economically free country in the world. It's actually not true. We've actually had so much regulation that we're behind a lot of these companies. But the interesting thing is the tendrils of China are in the underbelly of those countries as well. It's almost an economic secondary power for them. I mean, in the same way, and we do that in other places too, but,
And when you're getting
we're cool about
stuff that cheap from your neighbors that are subsidizing all your labor, you're like, man, I might listen to these guys a little bit if I'm getting pennies on the dollar for anything and everything to do with manufacturing.
Yeah. Well, let's kick gears into earnings this week. We've got a number of companies reporting. All of them are big dogs. Many of them, I mean, you could probably say that if you added all the companies that are reporting this week, it would be the weight would be 40% of portfolios that we manage. You've got Apple, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Cincinnati Financial, Integris, Eli Lilly. You've got Canadian Pacific, Saya, which really I think only Ben owns, and Visa. I mean, let's do the hits. What do you think an Apple's going to look like? We've got a new CEO coming in, potentially a new product in the glasses. I mean, what do you think the big move is? More buybacks?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the playbook. More buybacks. I'd be interested if they would release anything new on the glass. I don't know if they do like an investor day or something for more focus for that. But yeah, I don't know. I think Apple's going to be buybacks, the glass, and I think we're probably getting 2 month. Another 2 month. We'll check with the new Siri model. That's my 3 big points.
Man. Is Siri the worst product ever created by the company that's created all of the best products?
I actually saw Steve Jobs like talking about the original acquisition of Siri. I don't know when it was, maybe like 2012. It's like, yeah, now we want to be on the edge of like AI assistants, and it's like, man, you would be disappointed at Siri right now.
Yeah, Siri is Clippy 2.0, which might be before your time.
I don't know what Clippy is.
So back in the day when Microsoft, I want to say it was 2000. When they rolled out the new Word, Excel, all that update, PowerPoint, there was a anthropomorphic paperclip that would just pop up. So you'd be like writing a paper, and it'd pop up and be like, hey, it looks like you're writing a paper. Would you like some help? And it would bounce around the corner. It was hard to close. It almost never gave good advice. But that was, 25 years ago. So for the young people listening, take a little look at Clippy. That was when the world was much more quaint than it is now. But I would say the Clippy was as effective, if not slightly more effective than Siri, because at least it wouldn't pop up while you were just having a random conversation with your spouse and start recording what you were saying. But it would pop up pretty much every single time you tried to write a Word document. Meta, Microsoft, anything jumping out there for you?
Yeah, nothing big on Meta Microsoft. I'd be interested in retention from Microsoft and sort of how they're going about. I mean, I don't really think people are using Copilot. Like at an enterprise level, they kind of have to because everyone's ingrained in Outlook and Word and Excel and things like that. But I did see that they had capacity on their like coding agent through Copilot, so I'd be interested to see if they're going to be expanding that or kind of focusing more on more software implementations. But then on Meta too, probably just going to be hyping up their new model. I'd be interested to see if they are revolving into anything into like their creative suite with their new AI model. But I don't know. I'd like to see the glasses numbers, see if they're rolling anything out with that too.
Yeah.
Meta.
See how many more layoffs are coming.
Yeah.
There are going to be so many.
There's going to be so many. So we're talking about on Friday. It's like, I wonder if we might see a couple teasers from some of these big companies in earnings too, because besides Microsoft and Meta had some last week, but this might be your little excuse for the other big companies to be like, yeah, no, we're going to do some cost cut and optimization organizationally. That's going to be
I mean, Microsoft could use some fat trimming. It's wild to me that if you look back, I mean, Microsoft is essentially flat for the last year. I mean, it's been that hasn't happened in a long time that you could buy Microsoft that it just doesn't do anything. I mean, it's been one of the most consistent companies. I mean, going back to when I was your age, and yet it doesn't seem to have a real clear catalyst right now at it being up. And so we need something there. When Microsoft is down double digits for the year and the market is up, we got a problem. So
yeah.
And by we, I mean them mostly. Any of the remainders? I mean, Eli Lilly's probably the next biggest name we've got in there. Anything jumping out there to you? I mean, unless you have thoughts on railroads or trucking.
I guess I got one of my materials companies this week, Starbucks this week. Probably take a look at UPS as well. Coke's reporting. So a lot of the consumer goods are reporting this week too. So we can see the demand in that sector.
Man,
as well.
gun to your head. Is Starbucks a crappy company?
I don't know. I feel like every time I have an opinion on Starbucks, it's completely the opposite of the street. So I think that Starbucks is probably priced in for the most part. This is not investment advice. But I don't know. People are feeling the vibes for Starbucks are good right now. I mean, people are wanting to buy Starbucks at 100 here.
No.
And I don't know. I'm less on board with that.
I mean, if you go back, you'd have to look at the price chart. I may be off on this, but the day Brian Nichols got hired, you basically got like 4 years of returns. You should have sold that day. It went back to 70. You should have bought it again at 70. I'll buy some Starbucks again when it gets back into the.
I mean, for me, it's like a 90. I mean, it's probably like a $90, $95 stock, but.
So you're saying 5 to 10% overpriced at this level?
Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't be. I mean, there's people that are loading into Starbucks right here. Look at all that sell side guys. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't think so. I wouldn't. As a former employee of Starbucks, I would just say you can go into any locally owned coffee shop and have a much better experience and get better coffee for equal or lesser value. And I think that's. I just don't know where Starbucks goes. They need to. This thing is every time they try to expand into other stuff, you're paying too much. You're getting a worse version of that. Like, oh, you're going to go into Starbucks and get a Starbucks sandwich. Well, is that worse than just going to Panera and getting a Panera sandwich for 60% of the cost and probably 120% of the value? Like, I'm not saying Panera has great food, but if you're going to get a breakfast sandwich, go to the place that's the sandwich place. Don't go to the coffee place that has an insanely expensive but lower quality sandwich.
Yeah,
I mean people
love it. I don't know,
Yeah.
But honestly, for earnings, I would not be surprised to see a 5% move either way. Because if they beat, I don't know. I think the hype's just going to keep the hype train might just keep going.
I hate that, but that is my nature. Closing thoughts. It's gonna be a quick call today. Tomorrow we'll remember that Ben is not in, and so we'll have a little bit more of a tight agenda. I guess I could give a recap of our trip to Charleston. Andrew and I went up to Charleston to meet with some clients. We had an action-packed little outing. We had a bunch of very successful meetings, I think, in our eyes, and so we went immediately and celebrated with some espresso martinis. They had a cool printer on the bar where you could upload your own special picture. So we each got our own custom picture of Hicksy Boy on our martinis. We went to an Edgar Allan Poe themed burger bar on Sullivan's Island, which was unbelievable. And we met some young boys. So we made them subscribe to the podcast while we were talking to them. So shout out to Reed and Matthias, both Atlanta natives. They were up there to see this terrible jam band that we watched with them called Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country, which if you look up seems to be a very popular up-and-coming noodling band. They noodled their brains out. There was a lot of noodling, 50, 60-minute songs. It felt like it was not great, but we were, coaching up the young boys, giving them unsolicited life advice at the bar. So I think they appreciated that. They probably came away better, I'd like to think. So hopefully they're listening right now and they're thinking, man, I could be the next TK if I grow up listening to the boys and their wonderful advice on the podcast. So we'll leave it there. Tomorrow will be a better day. And hopefully we have some massive earnings and lots to talk about so I can have an easy time doing Ben's job while he gallivants across the European countryside. Yeah, so that's it. Have a great day, everyone. Carpe diem.